Okay, hello everyone. This is Leilani Coffin, CEO of the Learning Council and Educ Leadership Society Grand Master. We're going to get started here today. The first thing I want to make sure everyone knows is that we're going to run all the way through 4 o'clock your time in New York. I'm dialing in today from California, where we can barely go outside because of the smoke. It's hard to breathe. Even my cat is coughing. Pretty serious moment out here with the orange skies. Anyway, I want to make sure everyone knows kind of how the day is going to go. We're super excited to have with us North Bergen School District. They'll be first up in this morning. But let me give you a little heads up on what else is happening. We want you to, that's me on the screen, take a break, and I think I'm using my webcam right now. Take a break anytime as we go through. Just keep your tab open so you can come and go. And listen to the various speakers and what we'll be showing throughout the day. Ask questions at any time. I even take the liberty of sometimes just calling on people. I can see what your URL is here on my organizational screen, and I can unmute you directly. And you can also raise your hand anytime in the admin panel, or you can type in a question and then we can answer it as we go. We really want this to feel like we were physically together, which we miss being able to come into New Jersey and New York. We've done that for 7 years in a row, and now we're doing it virtually. So we really wish we could be together. But in the meantime, there's also handouts in your handouts panel. Both of them are very important. The first one, the agenda, has the 2 assessments that we talked about yesterday when we talked about motivation. And then the other one is our gift to all of our attendees. It's the Educ Dictionary, and it has over 200 definitions that are really important for everyone to learn and understand as you're trying to motivate them to digitally transition right now. Just having this basic understanding was missing in the market. And Chris McMurray is going to talk all about that in sort of a speed meeting, because there's a tremendous amount of data in there later on today. So these are our sponsors for the day. We're going to insert some of them for a couple minutes during the course of the day, or a 2-minute video. Some of them were talked about yesterday, but we were really grateful for their sponsorship. We wouldn't be able to do this without them. So they're going to join us just to share what's new going on in the tech industry, because lots of new things are happening. It's been a hugely motivated market to help education right now. So first up is we're going to have Stephanie, and make sure I pronounce your name right, Stephanie Stern-Prost, who is a good friend of ours from North Bergen, and she's going to talk about what's happening for them right now. Dr. Jared Kashishian is also with us. He's the District Supervisor of Science from North Bergen School District. Super excited to meet him and have him with us. Dr. Kashishian, make sure I say your name right. And then Dr. Krista Wells, who's a media specialist from North Bergen, and I'm checking to see if she's on.
She is on, and she's trying to get in. She couldn't hear you, so we're working on it. And okay. Krista, I just want to let you know that Krista was voted one of the most up-and-coming school media specialists for 2019, and that was nationwide by School Specialty Magazine.
Wow, that's amazing. And being a specialist right now means you're familiar with some 7,000 or more softwares and all the library stuff, and it's monumental what you know when in that position. It's huge job. So that's very well done. Hopefully I see her join here in a second, but we'll get started. So I know you want to share. I'm going to turn off my webcam. You guys keep yours on. I know you want to share screen so we can hear all about what's happening for you guys. So I'm making you, Stephanie, the presenter. You now have, we have slow network connection. So I'm going to turn off my webcam. I'll let you know if I think you guys should turn yours off if the connection is. Okay, I can see your screen. Okay, so introduce us. Tell us what's happening for you. I'm going to mute myself for now.
Okay, okay, so here I have the control panel there. So Dr. Kashishian and I started working back in 2014, building the STEM Academy together. And Dr. Wells and I met in 2015. Actually, we met at a conference, Leilani, that you were speaking at. And we all went to
Ah.
Monmouth University that year, and I could not find the picture of the four of us sitting at the table listening to your presentation, but we all met, and so for the past 5 years, this is now our 5th anniversary of STEM Academy, Dr. Wells has kind of joined on and is the teacher, co-teacher, lead teacher with me on advanced research. And so it's very exciting. I'm going to take everybody kind of through our presentation, and it will kind of lead us up to this point where we are in hybrid, virtual, in-person, everything planned learning, and we're going to take it from there. Okay, so this is a picture of the front of our high school. We took
Hey, Stephanie,
yeah.
I need to turn off webcams. There's some sort
Okay.
of network slow today,
No
so I'm
problem.
going to turn, yeah.
Oh, let me turn off my webcam. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Oops. Okay, now I turned off my webcam and lost my presentation.
No, it's still up. You just have to pull back up the PowerPoint, because I see the mountains on your screen with the beautiful starry sky.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so good. I'm still presenting. And, oh, here we are.
Yep, there you are.
Okay, great. So we took a whole team approach, and we're going to talk through it now. And let me get it back up again. Okay. So I'm going to take you on a brief walk down memory arrows. It would be a lane, but we're online, so it's going to be arrows. And then, sorry about that. And then, I'm going to just minimize this. And then we're going to talk about July 16th and kind of the pivot point of how we got everyone together from South Carolina. And we want to hit some goals. We want to discuss how we literally built this from the ground up, how the foundation was laid, what we had to discuss, and how this one kind of little subcommittee turned into a very central focus of planning the entire path forward. And so we'll hit on social emotional learning, COPA, which is very important. It's definitely a law here in New Jersey. It's an administrative code, and we had to figure out how it works. We've all heard the term everything is fluid. Dr. Kashishi and I have talked about that. It is fluid. Technically, it is a great term, and literal wise, it's a, illiteral wise, it's a great term, and how it shifts, how it's constantly flowing. We want to always plan for when there are actual students in schools, and with many schools around the Northeast region where COVID numbers are low and are sustainable, schools are open. They opened either Tuesday or they are opening on the 14th, so it's very interesting. And then for us who are working through that, we have a lot of long checklists we need to check off. Teachers in a digital world, I think this is really the most pivotal and core essential idea that we all got to discuss, and we really wanted to share with everyone, so they can definitely call us and email us, or email you, Leilani, or whatever we can do to help. And of course, parents managing two worlds. So we're going to start with a brief walk down memory arrows. Here in New Jersey on March 4th, and this was about, I could say, a good 5 weeks after the COVID discussion started within our own circles, we were, of course, watching all of the news, all of the headlines, following what was happening coming out of Wuhan, China, and across Europe. And we were all wondering, is it going to get here? And if it does, what are we going to do? And is it really what they say? And there's, of course, again, a fluid tsunami of information coming in. And then it hit. On March 4th, oh dear, the first case of COVID, hold on just a sec, yes? Okay, the first case of COVID in a New Jersey resident, this is James Kai. He was a physician's assistant, and he did get through it. from what we understand. And then 5 days later, Dr. Kashishian, Dr. Wells, and I accompanied our 14 seniors to the Hudson County Science Showcase, and we were all wondering, is this really even going to happen? What do we do? Who's sick? Who's feeling okay? We were all kind of checking on the fly, and we made it through the Science Showcase, which was great, and then that got checked off our list. 3 days later, the STEM Academy itself was supposed to have its admitted student pizza party where we go through the academy and we talk to parents, we talk to the community. We open it up, in fact, to the community, board members, parents, teachers, students. And that did not happen because that morning, my principal asked me how the pizza party planning was going, and I said it's going great. And he stated, you may cancel it now, and we are going home. So we were told that we are leaving. Teachers went in the next day, and we started preparing for online learning in 96 hours. We had 96 hours to pull our entire district from in-person to online. And I have to say, it was an enormous effort by everyone. I cannot think of a single person who did not put 110% into it. We had Chromebook distribution start and lunch distribution because we have many Title I, very large Title I population. And so our #1 priority was school to community support. In April, our classes were running. Our classes were running, and sorry about that. And we were getting decisions from all over. We were asking questions, we were inquiring. And of course, the next big hurdle were state mandated tests. We found out, I believe in late March, that there would be no state mandated tests, but we of course re-prepared in April to fill in for those tests. And if Dr. Kashishian and Dr. Wells want to jump in anytime, feel free on any information like that. And then we started readying for May testing with the science testing. We have, district science testing and of course the APs. We weren't even talking about the SATs at that point because the March SAT, I believe, got canceled, and the May SAT had already been canceled. The other challenge that we had were that Hudson and Bergen counties were becoming high hotspots, huge outbreaks, public outbreaks, community outbreaks. Just it was definitely bad. So what the district determined were two things: that flexibility and fluidity were key. If a student couldn't get online, we didn't immediately say, okay, you're absent. It was reach out, what's happened, et cetera, et cetera. And we got through it. We just readied for it. In May, we kept the classes going. We had a schedule. It was successful. We were definitely open for communication. We had lots of communication. We were giving out lunch either on Mondays and Wednesdays, Tuesdays and Thursdays, or Wednesdays and Fridays, but mostly Mondays, Wednesdays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and we were preparing for June. And as anybody knows, the time between March and June is highly accelerated in education because it's all in preparation. It's all preparation for the major end year events. Lunch distribution kept going, and mind you, lunch distribution kept going throughout the summer. And then the College Board announced that APs were going to happen online. We prepared our students, we prepared their Wi-Fi, we prepared accessibility. Finally, in June, school finished. We did get all report cards out. We actually pre-gave out our high school diplomas to the graduates. We gave out robes, caps, and gowns just in case, because We were hearing much more fluid communications. Yes, we're going to have outdoor graduations. No, it'll be in cars. It's going to be at a drive-in. It's going to be in a parking lot. It's going to be on a football field. It's going to be in any place where there's room. And that's what we did. We prepared. And in July, if you look at this picture, we were able to have our high school graduation and our middle school graduation. And you would think that we could take a breath, but we didn't. We had our first restart committee meeting, which was the central committee of restarting in the fall, meet 2 days later. And from there, Dr. Kashishian sent us an email, and he and Mr. Alan Pasquale, who is our district director of curriculum and instruction, pulled together a hand-picked team, a lot of technology-based teachers, but also ELA, biology, history, 5th grade, pre-K, all grades K through 8, through the special subject teachers, etc. And this is a picture, everybody, of a water spout that Dr. Kashishian, can you tell us about that?
Yep. So hi, everyone. I hope everyone's having a very enjoyable time in this new world that we are living in. So just as Mrs. Stern was speaking, what basically occurred was my administration, my superintendent, and my assistant superintendent / director of curriculum and instruction came and said, we need to start getting professional development out. And this is when I was on my family vacation, as I have been on my family vacation down at Hilton Head Island in South Carolina for, I'm 36, so 30 years I've been going down there. And while I'm sitting now on my balcony overlooking the ocean, I get this call and say, all right, we got to get started. What wound up happening was, originally it was just a simple PD committee. Find ways of getting good professional development out to our teachers. They're gonna need support with Google Meets and different apps, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what I said is to make sure that we have good PD, we need to have a solid plan, because, if we don't have a set plan, then the PD will mean nothing. And what I meant by a set plan was, what does the minimum standard of education look like in the virtual environment? And that was a question that was not easy to answer. I mean, we had bits and pieces of what occurred from March through June. We knew some positives or pros, and we knew some cons about it also. But what wound up happening is I had free reign to choose who I wanted. And as Ms. Stern said, we went through a very diverse group. I took some people that were extremely tech savvy, and I took people that had no idea about technology. Luckily, they were able to get on the Google Meet to have the meetings over the summer. But other than that, that was their limitation, to be honest with you. And the reason I picked such a diverse group is we needed to hear things from each side. Of course, when you are used to technology and fluid with the technology, what winds up happening is you think, oh, this is easy, people will understand it. We needed that, Jiminy Cricket, so to speak, in the ear saying, slow down, relax, or do it this way. From there, we built this basically virtual learning plan that we started on July 29th, and we had finished by mid-August, 50-something pages. We also built a virtual learning plan for the parents, which we will discuss. But within that, we said once we got our plan approved and was checked, etc., then we started the professional development. And I do just have to change my audio for a second because Dr. Wells was having trouble getting on, so I'm gonna just flip off for a second. And Ms. Stern, if you want to talk about this while I get Krista up and running.
Sure, no problem, no problem at all. And it's good timing because Krista's part of the presentation is going to come up. So here are two captures. We actually put a brochure together. We really wanted to do this. We wanted to do this from our own point of view. Dr. Wells, I know I sing her praises all the time because not only is she my colleague, she's my teaching partner, and it's such a pleasure. She is a Google certified trainer We do have Google certified educators in the district, but Google certified trainer is one level up or a couple of levels up where they can train other teachers, other districts. And so we all wanted to put our best foot forward by offering a wide array of topics. So while Dr. Wells and some other of our
Stephanie, can I jump in
yeah.
for a second?
Oh
Hey.
yeah, go ahead.
Hey, good to hear you guys. All right, I wanted to just jump in for a second because for those of you who are who actually have a Google Apps for Education, you know, if you're that type of a district, I think it's really great if some of your teachers are Google Educators certified, and one of the best things that some of your teachers could get is the Google Certified Trainer status, because you get to speak to so many people in the Google world. You get to connect to Google one-on-one with their developers, and you also get a sneak peek at the apps and updates that are going to come out in schools. So this way, you know, you have that heads up. So, you know, my advice is to take some of your technology teachers or any teachers that are really great with technology and just give them a little nudge and say, would you be interested in becoming a Google certified trainer? Because that trainer status really enables them to get a head up on what's to come, and it just really develops them to become better trainers in order to train the staff that they're working with.
That's absolutely true. I know a number of our technology teachers have become Google certified educators, but having Dr. Wells to kind of pull it up and being able to text or Twitter to Google and get answers to questions, I believe it's given us a little bit of a head start on the general knowledge, and it's been wonderful. So on the other side of the spectrum, I chose to take the very basic training. This is my 42nd year using computers. My mastery is only from use, maybe some PD, a couple of tutorials, and that's it. So I decided to help everybody at the spectrum where is my computer's not working. Oh, did you turn it on? From that side of the spectrum, and it worked out very well. I'd like to also, yes.
Can you go back on that slide?
Oh, sure.
Thanks. Okay, and these are just example of some of the sessions that we ran during our summer voluntary PD, and then the ones that we had for our PD days the first week of September. The one main PD that teachers really appreciated was the organization of Google Classroom, because when in March, when we were all on lockdown, you know, the teachers and students, we were just kind of thrown in, you know, kind of on our own, saying, okay, put up your assignments, this is what you have to do, go ahead. And what happened is a lot of teachers didn't know how to organize the Google Classroom. They were just posting things in the stream, some in the classwork, and then the kids didn't know where to look, and it just became chaotic. The parents were calling, well, I don't know where his assignment's located. So it was, you know, it was disorganized in, you know, in many of the teachers' accounts. So that was the main thing that our district worked on, is really organizing that Google Classroom for student efficiency.
We took it out of the Wild West and brought it into civilized, because during the time from March to June, it was truly the Wild West, or choose your own adventure. And over the summer was that minimum standard to bring everything down. And these PDs that occurred over the summer, we're talking out of a district of 700 teachers, we had more than a third of the teachers during their summer break logging on at all hours of the night, and we're extremely appreciative of it. And that's what we'll talk about a little bit further on in this presentation, about that whole group approach.
Yes, the whole group approach.
And I could jump in, and I actually asked the teachers, did they like in-person PDs or online? And they actually said that they love the online ones, and they preferred the online sessions in the evening. So they ate dinner, and then they were relaxed, and they just loved learning in the evening times.
So here's a list of basically the team that was put together as stated. And as you can see, it was a mixture of administration, every grade level from kindergarten and preschool to, of course, a middle school, then to high school. And we made sure we brought in our union representation. The main reason is, of course, is we wanted to make sure everyone had a say in this plan. And then before it went out to the teachers, it was not only viewed, but worked on by every stakeholder. And that was one of the biggest, most important things of building a 50-page document with the minimum standards of education virtually, with people's job roles, the shifts that occurred in people's job descriptions. How would we get that done in less than a month if it wasn't for, again, bringing in this whole group 3 times a week, about an hour and a half every single day, and then working alone and then bringing it in. There were subcommittees within committees, but it worked because we knew what it needed to get done, and we had the direction from the administration that aided in that.
Right, and I have to give a shout out to the AFT and the North Bergen Federation of Teachers. That is our union. We also do have NJEA members, and they should all be applauded at this point, because it was just, I know this sounds like a big love fest, but honestly, it was just one of those moments where everyone came together, everybody was open to listen, everybody took action, and we all benefited from it. So it really did come true. All right, so to talk about the true school day, and this is a big conversation all over. We know of schools who decided to have a full day, but not quite a full day. There are schools that had 20 minutes of online learning in a hybrid, and then let's say the other 20 minutes of a 40-minute period where the visual just went off to everyone who was home, and the lesson continued in person. I'm not really sure how to think about that. If that's the way districts decided, that's a good thing. However, there's always that question out there: is it equitable? I think equity, leveling, universal design for learning, they are all very important in this day and age. Of course, culturally responsive. We teach in a district, like I stated before, where it is a high, it's a high population of multilingual speakers at home, and also a high population of underrepresented students. So we decided from the get-go that we were going to offer a true school day. All of our classes are 40 minutes. They're all the traditional classes: 7:40 to 3:07 p.m. a 10 period at the high school, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., 9 periods at the grammar schools. And
except, not to jump in, except
no,
for
go ahead.
kindergarten
Except,
1 and 2.
I was going to just say.
Sorry, yeah, kindergarten
No,
1
go
and 2
ahead.
wanted to lessen their screen time, and that was also a directive from the DOE. So they are on a modified half-day schedule of live sessions, as well as another half day of independent work to, of course, break up that screen time. 3 through 8, though, is 9 a.m. till 3 p.m.
Right. So we have nuts and bolts rules as if we were all there. All day school, whether in person or online, including lunch, study halls, and of course breaks if you don't have a full schedule in high school. And of course the K through 2. All students got Chromebooks, and we did a survey, thanks to Danny Diaz, our supervisor of technology, beforehand to see who had Wi-Fi, who didn't really have Wi-Fi, who, you know, probably maybe if they had more than one student in the house, if their Wi-Fi would be enough, and we helped to boost it all throughout the district. And of course, hands-on projects with kids. We're still talking about that, about what can be picked up at school or sent home. We'll talk about that more in a few.
And the reason we stuck with a continuation of the normal schedule is when we go hybrid, it's an easy transition, mainly for the scheduling aspects in our student learning system, that we kept it relatively the same. We will split cohorts, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. There will be 2 cohorts. However, though, the students are used to the time, the teachers are used to the time, and it makes it just an easier switch than changing everything when the students come back in.
The next topic, COPA. I am not sure what the New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania areas have with COPA. In New Jersey, it is an administrative law and code. So student privacy is of the utmost importance. Students have a legal right to privacy. However, in many conversations, especially with Dr. Jafar, who is a technologist and homeschool, that's what her doctoral is in, it's very important to have engagement. And we all knew that. So we discussed at length what to do. We have an AUP for the district. And in that AUP, I think Mr. Diaz has been working on, or is currently working on, a way to let parents have a say in whether their students can be seen or not. And if they're not comfortable, they're not on the screen. If they are comfortable, if they want that engagement, they can be on the screen. We've chosen Google Enterprise over other software ourselves, but I know of schools that use Microsoft Teams, and there are still schools using Zoom. We decided not to. Google Meet is upping their security, where there is a doorbell or a waiting room, so to speak. The presenter can cut off disruptive behavior online. And if codes are given out, we get to see who it is that doesn't belong in the classroom, who is trying to get into the classroom. And then we do have a discipline approach and protocol for when those things happen. And so that's how we have so far dealt with this, and we think it's working out well.
Hey, Stephanie?
Yeah.
Lori Hill has a question for you. Lori, you can unmute. I unmuted you. Introduce who you are and what school district, and then ask your question.
Sure, Lori Hill's here. Just curious, just background. I could Google it, but I didn't want to interrupt your presentation.
No, go
how
ahead.
Many schools and in your district, and how many students? And my name's Lori Hills, and I'm in a large urban district in New Jersey.
We are a district of between 7,500 and 8,000 students, and we have 700 to 800 teachers. We have 7 grammar schools going into 1 high school, and we have exciting plans. We just made an arrangement to take the old high-tech building down the hill from ourselves, because high-tech, our county magnet school, has moved to another town, and we are in the planning stages of building a self-contained middle school.
Fantastic.
Because of our growth.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. All right, social emotional learning, like I stated about Dr. Jafar and all of us, we want the students to know that they're supported. As I stated in an earlier slide, number 1 priority, support the community. So some of our teachers started daily talk circles, and we've been talking about it. Dr. Wells and I, really Dr. Wells started this. We would have a Friday STEMpathy session where the kids could just talk about how they felt, especially in the height of the pandemic numbers. We've all had students who have lost a family member who went through it. We had a student who had COVID in the house. Everyone, you know, one got sick, one was asymptomatic. It was very hard on them. And I don't know about, you know, I've lost a family member in another country to COVID. I know that Dr. Wells may have had a loss in her family. And so it was very emotional. It was an emotional time with very little way to kind of have an outlet for it. So we talked about this at length. We wanted to have emoticon messaging, taking the temperature of the classroom, either with a Google form or just putting up different emojis and asking the children, pick your emoji for the day. We know that in younger grades, children are taught how to have emotions and how am I feeling today, and all those pictures that we used to see in books of, and that we still do for pre-K through 2, pre-K through 3. You know, how do I feel today? What is this? If this is happy, this is sad, this is frustrated, etc. Well, we have to go back to that. because we are humans in a digital world, and we need to remember that and kind of take the temperature and always be there in person for whatever we could. Here's a picture of me and one of our rising freshmen dancing, that we have these fabulous science kits from St. Peter's. There's Dr. Kashishian with two of our now juniors picking up their science kits, and it was a great day. We were all there together. Dr. Wells, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, that was a really cool day. We couldn't give the students in our class, two of them won bronze medals, and one of them won a gold medal at our Hudson County STEM Showcase. And we were lucky because the Hudson County STEM Showcase was the week before we all went virtual. And I'm glad the kids actually had a chance to actually present their research. And then next week we were just gone. We were home until until the summer. So we couldn't give the kids like a little party. We couldn't give them their medals in school because we weren't there. So Jared, Stephanie, and myself, we got in our car and we told them, okay, guys, we're going to be paying you a visit. Get dressed, and we brought them the medals ourselves, and their family members were there. And I think it was really great because we bonded with the family, and it just showed the parents and the teachers how their teachers, their three teachers, took that extra initiative and got in their car and delivered the awards ourselves.
And getting into more nuts and bolts, being fluid, we shifted everything. So this is our school calendar for hybrid learning. And it's an A and B cohort, and I said plus the rest of the alphabet because we really did look at a lot of cohorts, how they were doing it. A, B, A, B, C. There was one district that was doing A through F, just to get all of their students covered in learning. And of course, we always have to keep looking at minutes of instruction to make sure that we're meeting the state requirement.
And now, sorry, Steph. Now that, of course, you can leave that slide up. Now that we are fully virtual until the end of the first marking period, of course, we are going to be revisiting our hybrid plan, which we did start working on over the summer. However, we knew that we were going to go fully virtual for the first marking period. So what we decided was to put all our efforts there, and we're going to bring the committee back together shortly and then start working on the hybrid education. Because again, with that being stated, on Monday and Tuesday when cohort A are in, we are then still instructing cohort B virtually at the same time. So now it's a different maneuverability of the teacher, and there's going to need to be different PD. There's going to need to be different ways of using the technology to allow this to occur. And Wednesdays, even starting now, Wednesdays are an asynchronous day, which is going to allow our students into small groups, differentiate instruction, and basically have that tiered lessons that teachers have always asked for, but we knew there was never time. And, during this time, there is always pros and cons, and sometimes you have to look at the silver lining. And for once, the teachers now have the ability to truly differentiate, truly take the time out, especially in the high school level, to work with smaller groups instead of that whole group instruction that is occurring.
Okay, so I'm going to go through the next few slides a little quickly because I really want to leave time for questions. We do, excuse me, not me, us. At some point, there will be or are now students in schools. So let's look at hybridizing for just a minute. What does it mean? What does it look like now? So I put these slides up because they each mean something. 2 days ago, Governor Murphy announced that we have had the lowest daily NJ coronavirus death toll in 6 months. Does it mean we should blow open the doors? No. Georgia did open its doors. They meant well. They wanted to get everything back up to normal. But as we all saw break out on the news, the actual school picture versus the theoretical school picture did not work out well, and 9 cases were determined in a single day from that picture. In New York, I have to say, I'm actually a native to New York, and I grew up on Long Island, and I lived in New York City for many years, and it is quite a colorful conversation, but I have to look at the silver lining of that, or we have to look at that and say, at least it's an open conversation where now you're seeing every stakeholder in the mix. And in a way, that's a great thing. So we looked at all of that, and we're going to still stick to the plan that all stakeholders are at the table, and that moving forward, whatever hybridizing is, we're all on the same page. The most important thing right now from September 1st onward was access. And so we did an opening professional development day, and we wanted to give credit to everybody who volunteered to do this opening day professional development. And again, a big hats off to Dr. Wells and all. Dr. Wells started building digital access for all teachers, and she did so with a mobile app, and teachers made suggestions what we should put on the app. This should definitely be on. Can you add this to the app? And it's a great app. And let me just see, is this the, oh, here it is. And so we're going to preview that app now. Dr. Wells?
Okay, so one of the main things why I wanted to make this app is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I know most of you will get countless emails asking, where is the virtual learning plan? Where do I sign in? Where was the form that our superintendent sent? Where is it located on the website? Now you have everything located on your school's website. But teachers, they get so overwhelmed with their work, they don't know, what part of the website, where do I click? Do I click under staff? Do I click under, contact us? So I wanted to make something that, there's no excuse that you couldn't find the information, and just to have all their information in the palm of their hand. Now, the one thing that's required every morning is the attendance feature for teachers. Now, when they walk in, they have to, get their temperature taken, and then they have to sign into our real-time system and complete a questionnaire. So I made sure, Stephanie, if you want to click on the real-time button, I made sure that I put that link in there. So when they're eating breakfast in the morning, or when they get in their car and they drive here and they're parked for a couple seconds, they click on it and it takes them right to the survey. So this way they'll say, okay, well, shoot, I did it, I didn't forget it. So that's just little reminders for them, and I make sure I put it on the top. And if we click back, these are the forms that the superintendent had sent out if the teachers wanted childcare, if they wanted accommodations. And again, when the superintendent sends out these forms, they get buried within the other emails that they're getting from students and from other teachers. So if they need that form right away, shoot, where is it? I have to go back on my email and look. Everything is in this app. The biggest thing too is deadline rates for an increase in salary. Many of the teachers are getting their master's or their doctorate, and they want to know when will they get the increase in salary. They usually miss the deadline dates to put in for it. I made sure I put that on the app.
I have.
Yeah, so most of us have. Now, Stephanie, if you click on the technology support tab on the bottom, just click on the bottom. It says technology support. It's the middle one.
Oh, sorry about that, Dr. W.
Okay. All right. Now, this contact us, Dr. Kasheshian had actually made, and that's if teachers want educational technology support, whether they want, if they have a question on a subscription that we have, if they have any type of question, how do I implement this in second grade? The form is right there. So it's right in there. It's right in their hand. They don't have to go looking for it.
And what we did was we took our technology teachers that taught computer education in the lower grades, and we actually converted their role into tech support because, everyone needs support in this new environment, and we wanted to ensure that we were giving proper support for our faculty. And that was one of the big things that we wound up doing. It was it had a lot of back and forth discussions with the unions and the superintendents, but you know, it was for the benefit of the teachers, and it all worked out, and this is kind of what has grown out from it.
Okay, Stephanie, can you just go back on that app, the app for a second? Okay, and this is just a preview of it. I did make this app on glideapps.com. It requires no coding, so really any teacher that has experience with Excel or Google Sheets could make an app for your district. Okay, so just wanted to pinpoint that. No coding at all.
Oops, sorry about that. Yeah, and this is phenomenal. I think it was really the differentiator of everything. We didn't bring, you know, of course we always consult with the best consultants, and of course, you know, always go through the Board of Education. They find experts, but we had so much hidden talent within our own district, and nobody knows your house like you. And so I think this really worked out well. Okay, parents and guardians. Parents and guardians also need help. They are in a world where, you know, maybe parents are, or guardians are, or daycare centers, or whomever is watching children if the parents have to work. They need help too. They need to understand, or they need the help to understand what it is, or what is this world that their children are in. So not only did we build all the, you know, we built a little website for them. We did it in 2 languages. Some of the Google Classroom were adapted from just slideshows that were already online. We had one teacher who would take it. They used both Google Translate and, of course, a native Spanish, and they created the same slideshow in Spanish, and it worked out. And hats off to Mrs. Murphy and Ms. Morgana and Mr. Arango, who made sure everything was done well. So last but not least, we're going to just talk upon digital curriculum. So in our curriculum, and I don't know if this has happened in any other district, but as soon as we got home and started figuring out what we could do online in March, in April, there was an explosion of online resources. We were all sharing everything with everybody. And within 2 weeks, I think teachers felt overwhelmed with how many resources there were. And did they really have the time to learn all of these resources? So we didn't do that this time. This time we had a honed list of digital tools that worked very well during the spring semester, and then we brought in the best, and I'd say the most used for the fall semester. And anything that's going to be added, the administration of the district have their ears open. They will look at it, it'll be presented. If it's approved, it gets on the list, and once approved, it's added. And that was the simplicity. We took all of that, I guess, you know, it's almost like chaos to order, really. And as far as, go ahead, Jared.
No, go ahead, sorry.
And as far as our curriculum is concerned, we have the same goals. Our goals haven't changed just because we've gone from the classroom to online. We follow the NJSLS, NGSS, the AP. We always plan for modification and differentiation depending on IEP, ILP, 504s. And now built into everything, as you can see, are 21st century skills. We're not really too worried about that anymore because we're building it into everything we do. Do you, Dr. K or Dr. Wells?
Yeah, so as the saying goes, necessity is the mother of all inventions. And because we were thrown into this environment, you know, things had to be adapted, things had to be changed. And an example of this is we took our normal classwork rubric that were given out to all the teachers, and instead we had to make a virtual learning classwork rubric. This is to ensure that, you know, the students still understand what they are responsible for doing during this time in which we are still fully virtual with the students.
Dr. Wells?
This slide here, Ms. Stern, she could click on it. This was, I took the virtual learning rubric and I made I made it into a sheet where the students could self-assess themselves. Ms. Stern, if you want to just put in like a 3 or a 2 in one of the green boxes, they would self-assess themselves, and then the score would go up on top. So why don't you put like a 4?
I am trying, but since I'm in presentation mode, I'm not being very successful at it, Dr. Wells. Sorry.
That's okay. So if you guys are interested in how I made this rubric, we will send you a copy of it so you can look at the code behind it, and you could create one on your own.
And so to just conclude, this is a quote from Dr. Salter on the opening day of school. We will be working with students we may never have physically seen before in a virtual environment. We may have situations we never before encountered. Please ask your principal or supervisor for guidance, and above all, proceed with understanding and compassion as we educate in a totally different way. We are truly in this together. And I can't think of a better way to tie it back to having the team makes everything happen. And that's our presentation.
I love it. I love it. I'm not seeing questions come in, so I'm going to encourage people to put their questions in now, or raise their hand so I can see that you've raised your hand in the system, that I can make sure you're unmuted and call on you to say whatever you're going to say. Oh, somebody's raised their hand. I'm going to figure out who it is.
I always tell Ms. Stern, if we don't have a lot of questions, that means we were very thorough.
Yeah, and it's very true. And I think, you know, I was just having my editorial hat on, you know, being a media publisher, when I'm listening to, you know, people explain what's going on in their schools and districts, I'm listening to the emotion, not just the facts. And I have to say, it's evident to me that the group as a team, you guys have sort of, you've been through sort of a mini war together, and you've coalesced into a fighting team. That's been rare in education up until this point. There's been, in most major districts and medium, even the small ones, a lot of bickering in the digital transition. You know, a lot of refusal to move forward.
Well,
This
you know
moment,
what? Yeah,
yeah.
Go ahead, Leilani, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's been, I can hear that you've coalesced into more than coworkers. And I just wanted to comment on that, because this is a very powerful thing for an organization to have cohesed into a fighting machine. It means that the personalities went by the wayside and the work became imperative for the students. And that doesn't happen. That wasn't happening before in a lot of places. So I'm very proud of you, is what I'm saying.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Making us
So I
blush.
thought, yeah, it's a tough moment. So I'm going to unmute someone here. Brenda Cartagena, you're unmuted if you want to make a comment or a question. You have to unmute yourself. I think you're with New York City government, Brenda. I hope I said your name right. I didn't butcher it, Brenda Cartagena. If you're still on, you're self-muted, unless for some reason we can't hear you. Okay, for some reason we're not having her speak up. I think basically she was just giving you guys accolades, saying well done, kind of a thing. So yeah, so that was the comment there. The only other thing that I kind of want to ask you is, what do you feel like the future is holding for you? I mean, you changed a lot of things. I'm sure it's not done in your mind.
No.
But yeah, each one of you, why don't you talk about the direction you think it's going to go?
So my honest opinion is, you know, as we progress to hopefully getting the students back in, as I discussed in the presentation, it's going to still continue to be that paradigm shift, so to speak. When kids are in the building and half your kids are there and half your kids are home, it's a different dynamic. And I think that as long as we continue keeping the kids in mind, because that's why we got into this profession in the first place, and being open to trying different things and working out all the kinks and being above all patient, I think we'll get through this. And, hopefully, one day we won't, we'll look back on this and laugh and say, hey, we still did it and we survived it, and things can go back to the way that they were, because nothing is, the same without that in-person connection. But I think that it's still going to be more difficult moving forward, but we'll get through it together.
From my point of view, I think that the learning pod phenomenon that's cropped up at homes and in communities, I think that's a really great lesson for the public school system. And somehow I'm burning smoke out my ears, trying to figure out how to shift that learning pod at home into a more dynamic classroom. Dr. K and Dr. Wells and I already have cohorts. We have the STEM Academy, we have small cohorts, and we know it works well. But how can we now produce and create that kind of success story public school wide? And that's going to be a wonderful adventure.
I want to come back and make a comment on pods before we're done here, but Krista?
Yes?
Yeah, do you want to make a comment too?
Well, you know what? From what I've seen, I think teachers and even administrators, their levels of empathy for both students and their own teachers have really increased, because, just when we want technology to work, it conks out on us. And I know you guys have probably been through that the whole week, especially the first week of school. And I just think the importance of committees, we really saw that come together over the last couple of months, and teachers working with each other. I've never seen it so increase like this. We really depend on each other, and I hope this stays this way, that we rely on each other and we go to each other for help. Because I know a lot of teachers, they're always in that one classroom, they're kind of in a pod by themselves, and they just do things on their own. But now I see that they are asking a lot for help, and they are collaborating a lot with other teachers, whether it is to get digital technology lesson plans, or just, hey, I'm having trouble in room 212, can you please help me? I just think that empathy really increased.
That's great. That's great. Well, I do want to make a comment on the pods, Stephanie. It's so funny because when I first met you, I think it was just after my book came out on the consumerization of learning. And
yes, it was.
The last three chapters are about pods, which I called parents over development at the time. And they were actually, it was like a fake story, right? They were actually aligned to a district and a school, right? So they were prescriptively the oversight was by public education, not independence. So everything was digital, but locally what had happened is that local families formed garage or basement entities, so little 5-year-olds only had to walk 2 doors down. So they were sort of like satellites, but overseen and prescribed by the district, because everything's networked and the curriculum's all available and teachers are ported in over online and the whole 9 yards. So it's really interesting because there are districts talking about doing that. They're talking to parents like, look, we will be your prescriber of being able to figure out all the standards and what you need to learn, because you're figuring that out on your own is hard. So let us help you with that. And there are places doing that all around the country, in different
right. And I just want to make it very clear, especially in this conference, I am not talking about putting teachers out of business. I'm talking about forming really a real idealistic partnership. Schools with teachers, with parents, with guardians, and trying. I mean, one thing we've all learned about this, our immediate community became vital again. In a population that's so global and so online and so social media, and there's a million comments with everything, now's a real opportunity to look at that as a true partnership where everybody does have a role, including teachers and administrators and,
Exactly.
and all of the support systems that are in place there.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of that we talked about yesterday is the organizational time and space structure, the utility of teachers in a more refined manner through digital. We're in this moment of transmutation. John Babcock here, I'm going to unmute him. John, you have a question, but we really only have like 1 minute left. So maybe we can have the team from Bergen answer really quickly, but you want to ask your question, John?
Sure. Well, I just, with the Google Classroom, it makes sense to organize it so it flows in a certain way because within our school system, students move throughout the year. And going from one school to another, if it's organized differently, it's just a stumbling block, I think. And I just was curious how how you all organize the classroom, the Google Classroom.
You want us to send a video of how we did it? We had 2 different sessions, organizing Google Classrooms for high school, grades 9 to 12, and then for the elementary schools.
And then we also, in the virtual learning plan that we wrote, there was minimum things that were stated that had to be done. So of course, during a walkthrough, a virtual walkthrough, the administration would know nothing is to be in the stream, stuff has to be in classwork, and this has to be done district-wide, and even the naming of the Google Classroom was done district-wide.
And we also have a lot of, go ahead, sorry, Dr. K.
The last thing we wanted to do was get the parents even uppity because they didn't understand what was going on or occurring, or this teacher did this and this teacher's doing this. We wanted it standardized. So it went to the board and we passed out all that information.
And we have a lot of movement within the district as well. So we completely understand.
Right.
Oh, okay, good.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
No
okay. So John, so John, we're going to make sure that we get these things from North Bergen, and then we do a bulk follow-up email to all attendees, and it'll have links in there, not only to the resources Learning Council shares, but we'll get some of their resources and guidance that can be shared out with you. Is that okay, John?
Yes, thank you. That'd be helpful. Great.
Okay, thanks everyone. All right, so congrats to you guys for being super awesome in every way and, being a fabulous team.
I hope you're all staying sane and healthy during this crazy time. I'm Victor, one of the co-founders and CEO of Scrible. Thanks for taking a couple minutes to learn about what we do and how we can help during this pandemic and beyond. We're tackling one of the hardest things in secondary education, which is teaching the research and writing process. And it turns out that we're actually filling a gap in the distance learning model right now because Scrible helps centralize all students' research and writing work in one place online so that the teacher can then actually access that work and assess it and provide feedback remotely and asynchronously from home, which is historically not how this is done. For those that don't know us, I've got a couple slides to give you some background, but I'd love to be able to show you more. Here's the problem. Half the students in our country are coming out of secondary struggling with research skills and not being ready for college level writing. When you study the problem closely as we have, you realize that a research paper or a project is actually a very complex process. It requires lots of different steps and skills along the way, and historically, unfortunately, teachers and students have had to kind of struggle to cobble together multiple tools to do different parts of the workflow. So, for example, they might have used a standalone citation tool, a PDF organizer, a web clipper thing to grab things off the internet when they're doing research and so forth. And so this is a very fragmented workflow, which makes it hard for students to stay organized, and as a byproduct, it makes it hard for teachers to be able to track that progress and provide timely feedback. So at Scrible, we built a super app that basically lets you do all this work in one place. We help students curate, annotate, cite, build an outline, build a bibliography, and then integrate that into the writing process because we integrate with Google Docs and Microsoft Word. We then take the data that comes out of that student workflow and we bring it all together for the teacher in an analytics dashboard that lets them see real-time progress analytics and data for an assignment in a way that historically just wasn't possible. So here's an example. So for a particular research paper assignment, we can show the teacher how many students are on target and off target for the different steps in the process. We can also show them data about where each student is at and how they're tracking against certain goals that were set for the assignment. And this is pretty revolutionary stuff. Teachers historically have never really had access to this level of information. So I'd love to be able to show you more of what we have for teachers. I'd also love to be able to show you the amazing research and writing tools we built for students. And I guess I'll just close by saying that Scribble is something that you can use across disciplines and grade levels and even programs. And so we can help you across English, history, social studies, science, AP capstone research projects, IB extended essays, National History Day projects, science fair projects, and so forth. And so if you're wondering how students and teachers are going to be able to do this work well and efficiently in the new school year if there are school closures, I believe we can really help you, and we'd love to do that.